let's talk about Trump versus Biden. Because, Rita, there's some new polls out and, of course, taken at a weird time, 6 months out. Things haven't got where they would normally go in an election. But apparently, voters in key swing states are getting ready to back Biden over Trump, according to this poll. Joe Biden holds a commanding lead of 6 points over President Trump in the battleground states. The poll, which was conducted by NBC News, surveyed in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Now, interestingly here, the downside, which was written by, at least in an analysis of their own poll by NBC News, is that the bad news for the Vice President is that while he leads Trump by 20 plus points among voters 18 to 34, he has a net negative personal opinion. They have a net negative personal opinion of him, which is a definite warning sign for Biden, i.e. these are the people who can be demotivated to go out and vote for him. It's 6 months out. It's a weird time ahead. But like people had about Trump, if they were pro-Clinton, the concept that Biden can't win because he's a doddering old fool, there is evidence that he can.
Oh, he's certainly far more popular than Clinton. I think he'll be a better candidate until those debates. Clinton could hold her own in debating Trump. I think Biden is going to struggle. He can't sometimes complete a coherent sentence, and he's got all sorts of issues that the media have chosen to ignore. There's credible allegations against him. There's now a police complaint being made by Tara Reid, who's accused him of certain sexual misconduct. She was a former staffer. He keeps doing interviews where this is not even brought up as a question.
Absolutely.
The absolutely corrupted media in the US, and I don't use that word lightly, but their behaviour is just reprehensible. You can see why trust in the media in the US is at historic lows, because they've got this insane double standard, and of course that benefits Biden, but there will come a time when he'll have to answer these questions that he hasn't had to face for months, and I think he's going to really struggle.
Mark, I think we could all see that the pandemic, the handling of it, the misconstruing of the handling of it is going to be one of the big X factors here, because the economy has fundamentally changed from where it was at the start of the year. I'm all in on Trump. I want him to win. What do you think about where we sit now about his capacity to win?
Well, Paul, in lockdown, we're all watching old movies, aren't we? Our old favourites, and Trump's behind in the polls. That's another old movie that we've seen before, isn't it? We had a good close look at that in 2016, and the movie had a surprise ending, a real surprise ending that not many people saw coming. Mainly the great Rowan Dean and Ross Cameron, not many others. So
I didn't.
Can you really take these polls seriously? I suppose for Trump, though, I read a piece online today in the Washington Post about the fact that for an hour in prime time, this is 6 p.m. on the east coast of the United States, every night, he runs these pandemic briefing sessions, which are typical Trump. It's the exact opposite of what your trained, white-bread professional politician would do in the circumstances. They're random. They're part sort of reality TV show thoughts. They're part reflections on politics and life. They're typically Trump. So at the end of it, you just have to understand that the American people must have the most comprehensive insight into the character, the mind, the views and the thoughts of their president at any time in history. Because Trump's doing this. He loves the hour in prime time, of course. Yeah. Whether it's helping him or not politically, what we saw in 2016, again, he was random. He was reality TV. For the professionals, he was all over the shop. But then something funny happened in the last 3 weeks of the campaign against crooked Hillary. He focused himself and he stuck to the themes about the issues, the economy mainly, and he won. So he also has this capacity that his enemies wouldn't expect, to turn the flick, to flick the switch, to focus, stick to the issues. And when he does that, he's so formidable. You'd have to think he'd clean up Biden, wouldn't you? If they say to Biden, you're leading by 7 points, Biden's reaction would be, over whom?
Correct. But I will say this, I will make this very confident prediction, Troy, that with almost 100% certainty, which means it'll be wrong, Trump will lose the first debate. Because every sitting president always does, because they're not match fit, right? Because whoever is the challenger, regardless of Team Red, Team Blue, establishment, whatever, right? They've gone through this whole process of 2,700 debates beforehand, and a president who's going for re-election, Obama, Bush, Clinton, they all were terrible in the first debate, right? So inevitably that'll be one of the narratives about his new low, but he'll come back in the second, he'll come back in the third, you know how this goes. What's your reading of these numbers, Troy?
Yeah, look, some presidents are shaky when they go for re-election because they're spending their time on governing rather than on campaigning. So that's an advantage given to their opponent. There's no doubt about that. But look, as your viewers would know, I'm not a big Donald Trump fan, and back in January I said that I thought his re-election was not guaranteed. I thought it was.
Rita remembers.
I thought he was a vulnerable president, but I also think that Joe Biden has huge negatives as a candidate. I think it's way too early to say that Joe Biden can't lose or that Donald Trump can't win. But these are worrying signs. Not only these polls that you've mentioned on the program tonight, Paul, which shows Trump trailing Biden nationally as he has for a long time, and also now in key battleground states. He also has a net negative approval rating and has had for a long time. And another key sign is that almost every president since World War II has been more popular at this part of the cycle when going for re-election than Trump is. His approval rating is kind of mid to high 40s. Now, that is low by historical standards. A lot of presidents are in the 50s or 60s, even 70s or 80s. So I don't think this election is over yet, but there's worrying signs for Donald Trump. But, I'm not a huge fan of Joe Biden, to be honest, and I think those basement videos and interviews are not a good look. I mean, why can't he just stand in the backyard in front of a tree that's moving around? I mean, that would look more
without his missus holding him up.
The tree would freak him out.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that movement. Scary.